Okay, go.
Hi, we're group 6, and today we're going to be discussing if teacher tenure is the most effective policy to create teacher job security. So what do you all think the nature of the problem teacher tenure would be?
One of the major problems about teacher tenure is how it affects the quality of education that students receive, and basically just how it affects the quality of the education.
I was doing some research, and in a report by Medina Jennifer called "Judge Rejects Teacher Tenure for California," the judge rejected the law because he felt that it was a violation of students' civil rights to an equal education under their state constitution. So it has a rights effect.
Yeah, I read the same thing, and I saw one part where it was just talking about how teachers, like lower quality teachers, get sent to the lower class areas of society basically because they can't get fired, so they have to put them somewhere, and that's really affecting how there's a big difference between the lower class of society and upper class society, and how people are educated, and it's widening the gap.
I'm personally for teacher tenure, and that's because I don't believe that getting rid of teacher tenure is going to help children truly learn, and it's going to have positive benefits towards education.
Right.
Because most of the reasons why teachers go into the job, according to Jesse Wine, excuse me. According to Jesse Ronstein, is an associate professor at University of California, Berkeley. Teachers going into the job for that job security and getting rid of teacher tenure could have a profound effect on
how many people go towards the teacher career route.
yeah.
That sounds like a really good case study, but for the first few minutes, let's just try to focus on what the values would be, sort of thing, before we get into the arguments to or against.
I guess the nature of this problem would be whether we should keep the teacher tenure or not. Should we keep it or not? And I personally against it, just because during our research, and 90% of the teachers giving their teacher tenure for nothing, because they getting the evaluation satisfactory, and they already passed the tests, and that's the problem.
I think another problem that people who are against teacher tenure tend to bring up in arguments is that it can potentially, because you get such great job security when you haven't really proven yourself or anything, or shown any improvement, it doesn't really give teachers an incentive to improve their skills or just become better teachers. So people think there's a potential for teachers to become complacent, and that'll have a negative effect on the education that children receive.
So it sounds like we're focusing mostly on teacher quality and whether or not teacher tenure affects the quality of a teacher.
I have something interesting though. I understand that side to it, but originally teacher tenure was put into place during the 1940s when there was such a high turnover ratio of teachers when they were leaving their jobs to do other things that affiliate with wartime activities. But it was originally put in so that there would be no discriminatory means to getting them fired. It was more set up to be a due process of law where there's a third party that makes sure that whether or not they're getting fired for fair and just reasons, as opposed to, you gave the mayor's son a poor grade, so we don't want that affiliated with our school, or, affluent people are not going to send our children here. And just to continue a little further, some people think that this due process is so lengthy and you have to go through so many steps that they're not willing to go through it. So that's transformed teacher tenure into this total complete job security because people aren't willing to go through the due process.
So it sounds like another one of our problems is teacher tenure still what it was supposed to be, or has it changed over time?
Yeah.
Another thing that, I guess a thought that came to mind would be, is teacher tenure really giving teachers a voice, or do teachers feel so with their tenure they can fully express how they feel about situations compared to teachers that don't have tenure who can't, let's just say like the mayor, they can't talk to the mayor and say, yeah, your child isn't doing this well in this subject, so I'm gonna have to fail them.
Mhm.
But without that tenure, can they still talk to that mayor with that same type of respect or that same type of power?
I agree with what you
Yeah.
said.
That's an interesting point.
Going back to like the quality of the education, I think one of the things that I saw when I was like doing research was that people are trying to blame everything on teacher tenure while there may be other factors, like a couple of factors that I was looking at is that like people, like parents aren't as involved anymore, and just like kind of stuff like that could affect the quality of education. They're kind of using it as a scapegoat.
Mhm.
An easy way out to like explain why maybe the education isn't up to the standards that people would like it to be.
Yeah, because that's going off abroad too, because nowadays, like, you're more likely to have both parents with jobs and working, and as before, maybe a lot of like mothers or like stay-at-home dads are involved in like PTA, maybe there's less of a chance of that occurring now because the trends. But what is your opinion? I'm curious to know, are you for or against it?
I'm against teacher tenure. I do agree with a lot of your points, but I do believe that teacher tenure can create a certain security that allows teachers to slack off and not perform as well as they might be able to.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. Like, I'm against teacher tenure, but I also think there are potential ways to keep teacher job security, but while also like getting rid of the ability of teachers just completely like slack off and do nothing.
I agree with that because I'm for teacher tenure, and I truly believe that while teachers should receive tenure, there should be some type of repercussions for teachers who are ineffective now.
What's your take on teacher tenure?
I might be agree with them because just because during our research, I saw the teachers who don't have the teacher tenure, they leave their jobs within 4 and 5 years. It makes sense now that might be the teacher tenure might help the teachers, and the real question is here is that for some teacher is that the safe place for the bad teachers, but in reality it's the teacher tenure was designed to save the professionals from the political interference. I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you for teacher tenure?
I'm for teacher tenure, yeah, but I agree that it has been, maybe a little misconstrued in today's modern society of, now people are using it as a scapegoat and they immediately think that job security factor. And because our education system has been a hot topic recently, because we are falling behind in test scores in certain areas, but I think there's a better area that we need to focus on other than teacher tenure. And I don't know when it's appropriate to bring that up, what step we are on in the step are we.
I think we can move forward into talking about the possible measures where we can reduce our problems or find balances among our opinions, and as we can bring up our case studies.
Elaborating on possible solutions.
I noticed one thing when I was researching that a lot of the arguments for teacher tenure focused on more on teacher security and teachers' rights and stuff. But I think as a whole, teacher tenure is under the umbrella of the quality of education. I think that people are more focused, people who are for it are more focused on how it benefits the teachers rather than actually benefits education as a whole.
Yeah. I know that in terms of generating a solution, it would definitely have to be I guess you would say something with the funding, because I know a lot of teachers, I know what you were saying about teacher turnover. A lot of it has to do with, these teachers, let's just say you have a good teacher in a bad neighborhood. If they leave that neighborhood, they want to seek out a better, a better job, or for better job security, or if they're not getting paid what their demands are, right? And so that tenure, I feel like, can keep a really good teacher or an effective teacher in a neighborhood that isn't so bad that needs the help compared to a neighborhood who has all the resources available or readily.
Right, but with teacher tenure being so easily accessed, only needing 1 or even 2 years of teaching to get that tenure, then do you still think that keeps teachers in place if they could go to another school that might pay them a better salary and still only work 1 or 2 years to get that same tenure?
Yeah, that's a good point. In a way, I feel like it all has to do with, again, I guess you could say the value of that teacher, if that teacher really feels the need to serve a community, because from what I read, most teachers go into the job because they have a genuine need to educate or to serve the community, right? So if the I guess that's a hard question. I'm not too sure how to answer that.
That's okay.
Going back to what you were saying of the funding, I think like a major problem is that teachers don't have they're not well paid. Like, it's not a terrible paying job, it's not a well paid job, so I think that's a huge detractor for kids who are looking for or trying to figure out what they want to be later in life. So I think if maybe, I don't know how this would happen, but if somehow teachers could get an increase in salary, I think that would promote more people to want to become teachers and potentially help the quality of teaching.
But how do you think that would affect teacher tenure? Because that's getting kind of towards, are our teachers being paid enough?
I'm just saying because it's because I think if there was more high quality teachers, this teacher tenure problem wouldn't be as big of a controversy in society. So if there was higher quality teachers, I don't think we would be really having this conversation.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think it would almost turn teacher tenure as a positive thing. Because, for example, a lot of countries in Europe, their professors and teachers, if you achieve that level, you're kind of seen as a high, reputable job position. It has just a good, it would have almost the same kind of level as a finance on Wall Street kind of respect level. As opposed to here, I feel like the social, just stereotypes aren't as, if you get a teacher's job, you're not going to be as affluent and going off of that. But I think it would almost have to come down, and again, I don't know how this would happen. It would almost have to be a social change of how we view teachers in society, because fundamentally, they're the most important thing, one of the most important things, to improving generations. And then, going back to relating that to teacher tenure, maybe then this would be protecting the really good teachers who have been around for a while. So
would you say giving teachers a more personal stake, within the community?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think more needs to be more.
That and just the actual pay of teachers would be.
Yeah.
No, I have to think about the criteria that would affect that. That would raise the cost of teachers, and that would have a huge toll on our economy. And like you said, that would be a social change. So we have to think about the practicality of actually implementing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It would definitely be hard to implicate or to put better or more well-paid teachers within that job, because as we know, some communities are short on resources as it is, so to increase the cost of teachers you could see a decrease of certain programming like music, gym, things like that.
Yeah. I also think there would have to be a shift in what people think are the problems in the educational system. Because I was reading a lot about teacher tenure, and this guy, Richard D. Kallenberg, he's a big proponent of teacher tenure, and I was reading a couple of his articles, and he said that the ruling in California against teacher tenure, they compared it to the famous Brown versus Board of Education, as in as a promotion of the civil rights of the students to have an equal education. But he thinks that the real problem of educational inequality is segregation. And because poor families are they're so segregated from the rich families, and then they all go to designated school districts. So you have a bunch of poor families in one school, and the snowball effect of that is just not going to stop. Like, it's just going to have, they're going to have lower nutritional values, lower, money to enroll in after school activities to keep them out of bad, things like that. And he's proposing almost something where, like, you can, like, a mix of school districts where more affluent schools kind of have magnet programs for these lower income children, and to kind of just equal out the playing fields. And then this would almost tie back to the teachers, because then this would inhibit teachers not wanting to go to poorer schools if there were programs for just kind of a mixing of level incomes.
Right. And that's kind of getting towards the whole school district, and there could very well be that there's a lazy teacher in that affluent school that's just been there for years at a private school who just sits by, even though it's a prestigious school, he uses the same material he's been using for the rest of the years.
And then I think that has to go back into the administrators have to realize that, because a lot of people just turn a blind eye because the process to removing them is so long. So then that goes back to the due process.
Yeah, I was reading a lot about that, and a bunch of administrators just straight up don't even pursue trying to fix teachers who are underperforming or aren't performing as well because they have tenure, and it's a huge legal process, and it's pretty controversial, and it's a huge strain on them, so they don't even try to fix the problem.
Did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I read a lot about it, and the main thing is, if somebody wants to complain about the teacher tenure, who has two teachers who have tenure, it takes first of all too long, and for this process, and it's too. I heard it's too expensive. Going to the courts and every stuff getting the good lawyers, and it's too expensive to go against them, because the teachers who have already the tenure, they kind of under protection.
I actually have some numbers. I was watching the CBS news broadcast about the teacher training thing in California, and they said it took about $250,000 to $450,000 to fire a tenured teacher for incompetence.
Yeah,
And that's something that's cool. Yeah.
It's 10 times the teacher's salary almost.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So then maybe the rules need to be revised, because I think teacher tenure though does still do a lot of good things. If you have this new teacher who's young and wants to get this attitude of teachers are really important in society, and she wants to change the whole social belief about that, and they get fired because they're first in last out kind of a thing. So I don't really know. I don't know, but actually going back to what someone was saying about how administrators don't call people out on being a bad teacher, there was a study by Perry Zirkle, and he found that 99% of administrators gave teachers, both tenured and non-tenured, 80 out of 80 possible points on their reviews in the state of Pennsylvania. So this is going back to maybe it needs to be a systems alter of mindset change.
Is this a school district that does reviews on their tenured teachers?
They do. It was just teachers in general, just a yearly progress report on their job performance, and they just gave a lot of people just straight A's basically on their performance.
Just
And there's no well actually you probably could be doing something a little better, because you said before, the notes are kind of old. And
There's just one stat that I was looking at. In a 2009 study, the New Teacher Project found that 81% of school administrators thought that they had underperforming teachers in their school, and of that, 86% of them said that they wouldn't do it because of the potential costs. That they wouldn't just pursue firing or I don't know, whatever other thing that they do.
Because how expensive
Yeah.
it would be.
yeah.
So would you guys agree that we need to have some type of, I guess, provisional type of tenure that says if a teacher violates something under these acts, they can be ruled out or be fired?
If you go back to this article from like the 1930s, and in there it has the new Teacher Tenure Act of 1937 when it was implemented, and it says it only allows teachers to be removed from their positions for legitimate reasons, which include immorality, incompetence, intemperance, cruelty, willful and persistent negligence, mental derangement, persistence in willful violation of rules, or substantial decrease in the number of pupils due to natural causes. So that basically says like.
So maybe we need to revise the incompetence law.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the New York Times, I was reading this thing by Frank Bruni, and there's this politician in Colorado. Colorado had already, I think it was the first state to reform the teacher tenure laws, and they kind of have this. They have this system where you have to, in the first like couple of years you're teaching, you have to show improvement, or else you won't get tenure, or you can get fired. And then like if you don't show improvement and you don't get fired, then you like have to keep showing improvement, like longer periods of improvement to gain tenure. I thought that was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I think that would be really beneficial. I don't know why more states haven't gone about it that way though.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I feel like performance is kind of subjective because it's like it's based off of standardized testing. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you learn a lot from standardized testing, but at the same time, it's not like why people go to school.
Yeah,
as much.
and that's actually another good point because you could have a teacher that just doesn't really care and like knows what the standardized test like wants, and like if you teach directly to the questions, then you're obviously gonna have higher scores as opposed to getting more like critical thinking and like, you know, out of the box. Maybe you can't really apply it to SAT scores, and then, but yeah, how would they get judged on the same playing field? Because technically you get a higher SAT score, you get in a better college, and then.
Well, what would you guys think about someone not from the school coming outside and sitting in on random days to watch teachers and grading them that way? So
Like
just
a
randomized
society?
sit-ins. It could be federal, it could be state, that gets into a whole other issue, but so someone from
It might
Pennsylvania.
be a little impractical, but like
Yeah.
It could happen
it
though.
could like getting if that's just like they make a new job.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you would have to be put through training.
Right.
So that's costly.
Yeah.
It's a whole new program to develop, but.
But at the same time, I think it's like education is so important. that
Yeah, I think
think
it's worth the cost.
there's, like,
So, a quick question here, Lonnie. So since we all agree that, you know, education is really important, what does everyone think about, does anyone think that stripping all teachers of tenure would be right to do?
As it is now, I think it's better I personally think it's better to have no tenure than the current tenure. But like, I do think that if there was a feasible like middle ground, then I'm willing to like change my opinion towards that.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, I don't know, because I read something else too, and it said that since teacher tenure is worth tens of thousands of dollars a year in monetary equivalents, pays would have to be increased by 50% if tenure was removed immediately. So I think there would be a lot of immediate backlash that a lot of people don't really take into consideration, because if you're there, maybe, you know, you're there for teacher tenure, and then that could cause like strikes and just a whole bunch of social messes, and then it would become more destructive rather than like constructive if we don't, you know, think about maybe just tweaking.
Yeah, or maybe, I mean, like, you could even potentially like put, actually, never mind, let's don't let it.
Okay. Oh, maybe you have something, you like to hear something to say.
Yeah, I guess the best thing to say like would be like to adopt the university tenure system to the secondary education would be the best, because like just because the university tenure system has like every teacher have to be evaluated every year. That would be the case like like a lot of people would be sure that the teachers have the quality to teach. I mean, like they will be evaluated every year. Because like in the school like system, the tenure systems, they not evaluate like every year. Like in university does it.
Right.
That's actually like,
No, that's a really good point.
yeah.
Anything else? So we've just, oh no, go ahead, if you have something to add.
I do like the idea of, since it would be, I think, well, my opinion is I believe that it would be like completely unfair just to strip all teachers of the rights for tenure. But I do think a possible solution would be like a random walk-in from someone like you guys were saying, like federal or from the school district. But again, what about for lower school districts? That would be kind of costly.
Right.
Well, yeah. And I'm saying this goes back to like the primarily like low-income family, like affluent family school districts that are totally unequal, and like maybe doing something where that like a combination of getting the society to walk in and then getting these, like, for example, really quickly, my high school, Allentown, we take kids from Trenton, like a lower income city, kind of bad reputation of being like, gangs and everything. So, and we're, small school, farm town, Allentown, and we get a good amount of kids like every semester. And it gives them such a better chance. The commute's longer, yes, but like Allentown like works with their families and has these programs, and they go on to do go to college, and that's so much more chance of them than if they were just going like downtown Trenton. So.
All right, we've spent a lot of time on teacher qualities. Are there any other points that anyone wants to bring up? Like I know I was reading in the New Yorker about negligent teachers, and it was talking about the infamous rubber rooms. About the New York rubber rooms, when it's too expensive to fire a teacher, so instead the teacher is sent to basically a room where they punch in and punch out, sit there for the school hours and get paid their normal wage, because it's
Really?
cheaper to do that than to fire them if they're tenured.
And they don't even have to teach.
No, they just sit there.
See, that's ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah, because we spend a lot of time on like quality of teachers, but then we haven't really gotten much into the negligent teachers. Like some of them have been accused of crimes, whether it be child molestation or just incompetence or negligence, and then other ones, maybe they're going through the process of firing them, but because that's such a long legislation, and they can't let them back in the classroom, they have to do something with them, and they have to keep paying them because they're tenured.
Yeah.
So they ship them off to a building.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, actually, you go.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't think that anyone should be paid just to be punched in, especially if they're under negligence. So if tenure is becoming that far going, then I believe that there needs to be some type of reform.
Yeah, major reform though. But I don't know like the legalities of having contracts reduced, and like maybe you simply can't get rid of these procedures because they have to make sure that it's a fair reason for firing. But in the cases of like breaking the law, I feel like there should be absolutely no protection, because you cannot be a good teacher and break the law. Like you just cannot in any kind of form.
But then they still have to go through the process of going to the courts to fire them.
Because
Because they're
putting
tenured.
a trial because they're under
Because
tenure.
under tenure, you can't just fire them. You have to go to the third party and prove that they're being fired for a just cause.
I think there should be a subscript then, like 2 years. It's 2 years and you receive tenure.
I think it varies.
It varies.
What schools that will be
It's
allowed?
about, I read that it was about like, for some,
Yeah, I think it depends.
yeah,
Okay.
like some schools do 1 year of, you go through within another year of provisional tenure, pretty much. And then after that provisional tenure, you get that tenure. So it's about like 2 years, pretty much, 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. I just think it would be kind of realistic to have like a clause that your teacher tenure is terminated,
Yeah.
with so and so. Like lawyers can do. I mean, I don't know, but and then you would be taken to court, but then almost on a criminal offense, and it would be off the school's shoulders. I don't know. I just think like for the bedroom.
I feel like it'd be kind of hard to do that because like some laws that you break aren't as bad as like other laws that you break, so you'd have to
draw the line. Draw the line.
Yeah, it's like that's kind of like hard to do.
Right, there's a lot of gray matter.
That is a lot of gray area.
And then what if a teacher is falsely accused, and there is that subset that says while the trial's going on, they do not get compensation, but then that could be up to 2 years no pay if they have to support a family and they actually didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely really tough.
I feel like that's a small percentage of teachers though that like actually.
It is mixed,
But that small percentage is
Right.
why teacher tenure is such a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That small percentage that makes it bad for all the good
Yeah.
ones who might deserve it.
yeah.
Do you think it's fair to judge a small majority, or small minority for the whole majority thing?
Or do you think it's fair to judge the entire group based on a
Yeah.
small percentage?
Yeah.
Oh, what was it?
Like to judge the entire group of teachers off the small percentage of them that do these bad things and abuse their tenure?
I mean,
I mean, I don't think, if everything you have to think is relative. Obviously, this is a special case and it's very sensitive because these are people's children and they're the future of society. But, I mean, you look at, going back to, businessmen on Wall Street who commit, financial fraud, and there's a small amount of them, but it's this different due process, but that kind of gives them overall financial goal, like everyone's trying to in for the money, scheme and things. So there's different in every, sector. There's gonna be people that abuse and misuse the laws. It comes down to whether teacher tenure is making it better for that small percentage to get away with doing more, as opposed to laws that crack down on criminals if they're caught in the financial district. I don't know if that's relevant, but.
No,
No,
definitely.
it's a good
I think
comparison.
it's good,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, they're not teaching, the people on Wall Street aren't,
They don't have effect on lives.
right.
That's
Right.
why it's
Well, they do have effect on
well,
lives, but it's not
yeah.
they don't have to be no one's looking up to them, teachers are almost instilling morals in kids as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
If they're
And social
scumbags and the kids will I don't know, get
follows.
kind of messed up from that.
Yeah.
An argument could be that other professions don't have tenure, and this could happen to anybody else in any other profession. There's nothing there to back them up except for the union, which teachers also have. But then, like you were saying, teachers are in a delicate situation where they're holding their minds,
Right.
and they're affecting the education of the future generations.
Mhm.
And if they're bad, then it's just a vicious cycle that's never gonna
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah.
So just maybe define some things. What are our possible solutions or criteria that we've kind of talked about in general? Because we've touched on a lot of different things.
I mean, I thought one of the things was just maybe a middle ground where you have
Yeah.
to actually earn teacher tenure and maybe have it in maybe a longer period of time to obtain teacher tenure.
Okay, so make it a minimum.
Yeah, I was saying, I was talking about how Colorado did it, you have to show improvement over a couple of years, and if you don't, then you either get fired, or you still have a chance to make tenure, but then they make it harder, and you have to show even more improvement, so.
I really like your idea of the society of people.
Of people
that-
sitting in randomly.
Yeah, and then maybe they do get, pay compensation, or they definitely do get pay compensation, and there would have to be a program.
Yeah.
And I'm almost thinking maybe even it could be some kind of thing where teachers are retired and it's not a very time consuming job. It could be they can shift some rotations and they've had really good experience with proven background, and then they obviously would be very passionate and strict.
That's a
And they
big
have it
idea.
from, and then it could be and then it would instead of just training someone.
So I feel like a lot of the teacher evaluations are based off standardized testing, so I really think that's a good idea, because you can't I feel like you can't quantify how good a teacher is based off how well students do on the standardized test.
Teachers judging other teachers.
Yeah, but outside the school district, because
But
from our
retired
studies, previous
teachers.
studies, that's not happening today.
Yeah.
Because of everything we just talked about with the laws and the money and everything.
I like that idea, because if you get someone from the outside district who are experts who love the field, right? Who love the
Yeah.
field teaching, they come in to evaluate other teachers, it shows that, hey, this teacher is effective in this, and this, and teaching the children how to be, whatever they have to meet the standards for, maybe ineffective in this way. I really like that idea. I think that idea is going to be, I don't know, maybe one of the most feasible in terms of money and time.
Right, definitely the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't have that much. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with them. And as I was saying before, I'm for the solution that we adopt the university tenure system to the secondary education. Just to do the best way. It's they will evaluate every year, and all the teachers will be on the
Mm-hmm.
The only possible drawback I can think of right now, I'm sure there's more, but is the fact that maybe you could get some like backlash from the teachers that are getting judged by saying, oh, they don't know our school district, they don't know these kids, like they come from bad families, I'm doing the best I can, and then, you know, an outsider comes in and says you're doing a poor job and like wants to revoke your teacher tenure, you could get a lot of backlash from that. So I don't know
I feel like you're gonna get backlash regardless
of any method, yeah.
You could have them rotate different retired teachers from different districts coming in and doing, not just one
Like
judgment, like a,
Well, and then they kind of
Like a
get a
board.
synopsis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and maybe that wouldn't even determine whether or not they got tenure, it would just be a bigger factor.
Yeah, just like a way to, one of the factors in determining got the tenure and didn't.
Yeah, I agree. I can't really see, go ahead.
Would there be any benefits for those who are coming in from the outside to view the teachers? Like, what would be the benefits of doing that to other teachers? Like, any type of compensation?
Monetary,
Yeah.
and then just the fact that you know, this was your profession and now you're
Something you care about.
something
So
you
if
care
you're
about.
retired, it's like, it's a short period of time. You can get
I think, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
It's
basically.
like part-time jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and make a little extra money, you probably only do it a few times a semester.
Yeah. And it has to be like spontaneous too, right?
Yeah.
Random,
Yeah, it's not
they couldn't know you were coming.
Yeah.
Now, how did you guys think administration would handle that though? Do you think they would keep it random? Because administration would have to know, or do you think they would give teachers heads up?
Oh, that's
So
true.
their school would be
Better
better.
schools. That would be interesting because then that would almost be, yeah,
What about at 30 minutes?
we're at,
You're about at what?
we're about 30, 35.
Oh, 35, because there's a class.
Oh, okay, all right, you know, it might have been, okay.
Okay.
Is it okay if we keep it under 40 minutes?
I mean, if that's what you need to do, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, you know, I mean, you're supposed to get through as much of your agenda as you can in 40 minutes.
Yeah, we reached okay, so just really wrap it up, we think that the potential for previous teachers randomly coming into schools and seeing if what teachers are doing are, you know.
Is the best solution to
Yeah.
our problem.
I think
It's the quality of teacher tenure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree, all right.